So obviously with a credit card company, you see a lot of security stuff and have to think, as we tell anybody, anytime you're managing money, it's a big deal. So a lot of times when we think about the overall kind of cybersecurity landscape, we're constantly in this notion of new technologies, new strategies, throwing new products at people. But at the same time, as humans and everything we do, we're trying to keep up with all this stuff. And we're kind of getting thrown new stuff all the time. So how does Mastercard kind of balance this newness, but also the strategy for like keeping everybody on target and keeping safe?
Yeah.
And now we add to the fact that it's money. How do you deal with all this?
Yeah, first of all, a little bit of a correction. We are not just a payment company. I lead the cybersecurity part of Mastercard, and 80% of my customer base is not a bank.
Got it.
So just be aware that we secure corporates, but we secure governments as well. So we
Sure.
see a lot of things, and the unique view we have at the end, the basic at the end, and it's not overly exciting, but we see that still 80 to 90% of the attacks are very basic attacks. Yes, Gen AI makes the phishing mail more efficient, more hard to detect, but the cyber hygiene to stop a phishing attack is still the same as before. So in that way, the majority of what we focus on is still fix the basics. Fix the basic on your own company, fix the basic also on supply chain, because that's what often people forget. 60% of the attacks today come to a company corporate via supply chain attack. 60%, 6 out of 10, which is huge. Most companies spend most of their money on their own defense, not on supply chain.
Interesting.
I don't say don't change that. Don't set everything on supply chain because your own vulnerability is your liability. But at least some proportion of your attention needs to go to supply chain, and that's very important. Now, when you think about the new cyber trends or the new technology, zero-day attacks type of things, first of all, there are two challenges with zero-day attacks. First of all, it's a zero-day attack for a reason that you have to anticipate. It's not that have never happened before, and it's very hard to imagine something that never happened before because it can be anywhere. So it's very hard to really invest in those type of things. The way Mastercard deals with that situation is we do something called threat casting. What is threat casting? Is an exercise you do with specialists. I'll give the example of quantum computing. We put quantum computing specialists together with cybersecurity specialists, and then we ask them the question: imagine 7, 8 years from now, criminals will have access to quantum computing. What will they do? How will they attack you? And the answer is then always very simple. Is okay, they will, for example, start stealing identity data, encrypted identity data today, store it for a while, because 7 or 8 years from now, the likelihood that you changed your name, the likelihood that you changed your phone number, the likelihood that you changed your social security number, ID number is zero.
Very well.
So whatever they harvest today or what they collect today, they can harvest and encrypt tomorrow. But then the question is, what do you do today against stolen credentials, personal data? How do you protect against that? And the way we address that in our ecosystem is we say first, what often people forget in cybersecurity, and CISOs sometimes skip that because they don't like it too much, is we work with a framework called Assess, Protect, Organize. And the Assess framework is a very important part. A lot of CISOs start with where invest my money in my defense tools,
Right.
not knowing if that is a good investment or a bad investment, because if they have a problem there, there's a no. So I think it's always wise to spend more money on the assess part to really figure out where your weaknesses are. And then if you have weaknesses, then you can mitigate them and you can invest in tools to stop your risks. Some people just buy these very expensive tools that you see around us, not knowing what the risks are and what the challenges are, and then they overspend on those tools, or they buy overlap of those tools, or buy tools that do the same thing. So in order to have a decent hygiene on your investment, you also need to assess your risk. So short summary to my long answer.
No, that's good.
It is fix on the basics, don't forget your supply chain, and do assess before protect.
And what's the number one thing you would tell people to go look at the supply chain?
The number one thing that I think in supply chain that you need to look at is go to first to the suppliers that that are more critical for your survival at the end. So if you have your critical suppliers are the ones you have to watch most, because if they get attacked and get out of business, what problem do you have in your system? If they deliver big provider of software solutions at you, and they're hacked and their software is compromised, what goes down in your systems? So it's this. So look at what we call the critical supply chain and focus there first, because the challenge is every corporate, every company has on average around 200 to 300 suppliers. You can't monitor 300 suppliers at once.
Yeah, it's too many.
You always need to look at the bigger ones and the more critical ones in more detail. But we have a tool called Risicon where we then also say, but you can monitor everyone just by outside in validation. And the ones with you problem, then you investigate more. That's another way. But always define what are your critical suppliers and make a plan out for them to make sure that they don't bring vulnerabilities to your systems.
And what do you tell consumers that you think, with all your experience at Mastercard and the volume that you see, what do you learn from that you would tell people to like think about their basic security hygiene? Because I always like listening to experts because you're talking about the back end, but the rest of us, say the mere mortals, how do we get better at what we do?
But at the end, the same thing that we always advise to consumers is the same thing as always. If you use passwords, if you use passwords, don't use the same password for everything. Change your password
frequently. Use a password manager.
Yeah, use a password manager. Do all these super easy things. Don't click on every mail that you see. If something looks too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true, and it's a phishing attempt. So it's all these very basic things. But the challenge is that, and that's my personal, let's say, motto is education of consumers will only go as far as the consumer listens to the message, reading the message.
Yeah.
The problem is there are age groups we don't reach anymore with our communication. My parents, for example, my father clicks on everything he sees because he thinks it's the right thing to do.
He sees different colors.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Okay?
Because he's not aware. I told him that it could be phishing, but it still he thinks he got a mail and it's important that because someone spent the time to send a mail to him, so he thinks it's important for him to click on it and to respond on it. And so he gets into a lot of trouble. So I now put rules in his mailing system that his certain mails automatically go to his trash box and he doesn't look at it anymore. But there's no way to educate him. So in that way, I think there is a request that I have, and that's in the organized field that I mentioned before, is I think as big corporates, governments, we need to help consumers, especially those more vulnerable groups of consumers. If you have a Gmail account, Google should help you.
Yeah.
If you have a Microsoft account, Outlook account, Microsoft should help you. I think if I can explain you how you have a recognized phishing mail, you can put a rule in the system that identifies what is supposedly a phishing mail, and at least you can make a warning out of that.
Yeah, and one actually hopes that the AI stuff would actually do some of this, right?
Yeah. So, okay, I was saying rule based, right? And it's also this conceptual AI. So I always say rule based because I think today I can say, look at from where the mail is coming from. Look at the word urgent or things. That's the thing you recognize. Look at there should be a link in it. If those three components are there, you've probably a phishing mail.
Get rid of it.
Yeah. Do I need an AI system for that? No, unless it's evolving. And so, yes, an AI system can help me to better recognize the deep fake. Yes, an AI system can maybe help me to be a more sophisticated email address, phishing mail. But AI is not a basic solution. I think the rule-based system will do like 95% of the job. And for the moment, the 95% is what we should focus on, not the 5% that is over AI. That is like
Interesting.
deepfake, like a deepfake attack today. It's mostly used by criminals on high profile targets, which means high politicians, CEOs of companies, CFOs of companies. That are the ones that you want to, the criminal wants to spend time to make a deepfake.
Yeah.
It's for you to get to your Facebook accounts. I don't make a deepfake. I don't need to do that. So that's what I don't do. So it's a bit of the balancing there. And for most of the consumers, they're not a CEO, they're not a ministry in the government. So don't need to go there on AI, in my opinion. Rule-based will do.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for
appreciate
coming
it.
today, all the way from Belgium, right?
Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
With pleasure.
Awesome.
Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Yeah.
And see you best. And if you have any questions, I'm still available.
He'll be over here.